One of the problems with recruiting for investment banking is not the knowledge or skills you acquire, but the access to talk with real investment bankers to put your best foot forward. Our sponsor, WSO Academy, can provide those connections with 60 head mentors who are finance professionals at top firms like Goldman, Centerview, and JP Morgan. Imagine being able to get on the phone within 24 hours with one of the Academy's 1,300 mentors right before a critical interview. Get on the waitlist for WSO Academy today by clicking the link in the show notes or by visiting wallstreetoasis.com/academy. All right. Welcome to Investment Banking Insights. This is the only show dedicated to helping you learn both the technical and the non-technical aspects of the investment banking process. Hello, my name is Alex Mason, and I am your host. Thank you so much for joining me today. Whatever you're doing today, wherever you are in the world, I really appreciate you joining. And we're talking about the technicals right now, getting into the nitty-gritty of some advanced merger and acquisition topics. And today's question is this: what is an exchange ratio and when would you use it? What is an exchange ratio and when would you use it? So what is this concept? Well, an exchange ratio relates to deals where stock is exchanged as part of the deal. Recall that there are three different forms of currency that we can use in a transaction. We can either use cash, we can either use debt, which is basically borrowed cash, or we can use stock. And this relates to when stock is exchanged. Now, this could apply to deals that are all stock deals, but it doesn't have to be. It can also be related to a deal where a portion of the deal is stock and let's say the rest is cash. So normally in a stock related deal, what would you do? You look at what the buyer's purchase price is and then divide it by the number of shares that the buyer has in order to get the new amount of shares that is being paid. So for example, if the target business being bought is $500 million is the purchase price, and the buyer has a share price, let's assume it's a public company, of $50 per share, then the new share count is 500 million divided by 50, which gives you 10 million shares. So 10 million shares that would be exchanged as the purchase price, because this is, in this example, it's super simple. We're assuming an all stock deal. So just as an illustration. So that's how we can think about all stock deals in one sense. However, an exchange ratio is kind of a different paradigm. Instead of having this fixed dollar amount, we actually have a ratio of shares between the buyer and the seller. That's a predetermined set of shares that are swapped between the two companies. So for example, let's say that an acquiring company might pay 2 shares of their stock in exchange for 1 share of the seller's stock. And this is different from using a specific dollar amount, and it has advantages to either the buyer or the seller depending on the situation. So you might ask yourself this question, like, when does this matter most? Like, when would this actually be useful? Well, for the buyer, this is a good thing if their stock price goes down after the deal closes. So let's say the buyer has shares trading at $50 per share. They execute an all-stock deal with a smaller company in order to acquire them, and the seller gets all those shares. So that really sank the value of those shares. So it's not very good for the seller. But on the other hand, let's say that a seller might prefer if the buyer's stock rose after the deal closed. So let's say that the buyer had shares trading at $50 per share. They do the all stock transaction, and then the value of the shares of the buyer go up from $50 to $60. Well, that's great for the seller because that just means that they got more money. They got more monetary value out of the deal than initially expected. And that's something that you don't get with a fixed purchase price. If you use an exchange ratio, you get to either benefit or suffer from fluctuations in the share price of the shares being exchanged. So that's really what exchange ratios are all about and how they differ from these fixed purchase price amounts. So that's what an exchange ratio is. That's what I got for you today here on Investment Banking Insights. Short and sweet for you today. I hope you're doing amazing, and I'll see you in the next one.